Move on to the motifs of the second round. Here, I will still be working from left to right. For this round, some of the motifs require a new stitch technique, named half double crochet. I'll show you in detail. First, crochet the first motif. The technique is identical to the motifs of first circle, but we'll skip some stitches somewhere. Round 1 of the motifs here are exactly the same as the previous motifs. Please finish that. Note that after round 1, do not fasten off the yarn, but move on to row 2 directly. Starting from this row, all following rows won't be worked in rounds, but worked row by row counterclockwise from this starting point. Joining the yarn first. And work following the chart all the way to the last 2 stitches. Now we have 2 stitches left. Leave them unworked. Row 2 is completed. Since the yarn cannot be used continuously here, fasten off the yarn. And hide the tail on the wrong side. Move on to row 3. Crochet with the reserved yarn from round 1. Insert the third chain of the beginning chain. Draw the yarn through. Chain 1 as beginning chain. 1 single crochet in the stitch of next double crochet. 1 double crochet into the gap of double crochets from round 1. The following stitches are the same as round 3 of the first complete motif. You can also work according to the chart. After this single crochet, there is 1 stitch left. Here, 1 slip stitch. And do not tighten it up. Fasten off the yarn. Hide the tail on the wrong side. At this point, row 3 is completed. Next, work row 4. Join the yarn to the first single crochet of the previous row. Chain 1 as the beginning chain. 1 single crochet in the same spot. Work single crochets evenly for the following stitches, all the way to the last single crochet of the previous row. After the final single crochet, fasten off the yarn. Hide the tail on the wrong side. At this point, row 4 is completed. Continue to work row 5. Join the yarn to the first single crochet of the previous row. Chain 3 as the beginning chain. Follow the chart to crochet the corresponding pattern. The last double crochet should be crocheted in the stitch of the last single crochet. Fasten off and weave in the tail. Row 5 is now completed. Now work row 6. Join the yarn to the third chain of the beginning chain from the previous row. Chain 3 as the beginning chain. You can also join the yarn in the gap next to the beginning chain. Follow the chart for the rest. The last double crochet should be worked into the last double crochet stitch of the previous row. Fasten off and weave in the tail. Row 6 is now completed. Next, work row 7. Join the yarn to the third chain of the beginning chain from the previous row. Chain 1 as the beginning chain, followed by 2 chains as a bridge. Work according to the chart. The final single crochet should be worked into the last stitch of the previous row. Fasten off and weave in the tail. Row 7 is now completed. Lastly, work row 8. For this row, the 2 corners and one side at the bottom need to be connected to the motifs from the first circle. First, join the yarn in the beginning chain space of the previous row. Then, crochet according to the chart until you reach the first corner. Now, Crochet and connect the corner. First, 3 double crochets into the corner. And chain 1. Pick up the motifs from the first circle. With the right side facing up. Find the first motif. If you can't find it, you can also start with any motif. But the connection should be worked on the side with a different color to the row you are working. Insert the corner chain space and connect just like we did before. Finish this corner. Crochet and connect the side. After the side, crochet and connect the next corner. Once completed, no connection is needed for the remaining part, just crochet according to the chart. Finally, fasten off the yarn and weave in the tail. At this point, row 8 is completed. The first motif of the second circle is now finished. Continue with the second motif. The first 7 rounds of it are all crocheted in rounds, and identical to the first 7 rounds of the first complete motif. Please follow the chart to complete them. Next, crochet round 8. One corner of it is worked slightly differently from the other 3. And this motif needs to be connected to the previous one along this side. And connected to the motif below along 2 corners and 1 side. Now, let's start. First, work with the previous yarn. Insert the corner chain space next to the yarn. Pull the yarn through. Chain 3 as the beginning chain. 1 double crochet in the next chain space. Then, connect to the previous motif. Here, we slip stitch into the stitch of double crochet on the edge of the previous motif. After that, return to the second motif. 2 double crochets in the same chain space. Continue connecting the sides. After that, crochet and connect the next corner. Connect the next side and corner just like we did before. Now, for the remaining part, no connection is needed. Keep going. And finish the last side. Now, we are at the starting corner. Chain 3. 1 slip stitch into the corner chain space. No need to pull tight. Fasten off the yarn. Hide the tail on the back. At this point, the second motif is complete. Move on to the next motif. The technique for the third motif is similar to the previous one. The only difference is the ending stitch. The first 7 rounds are crocheted with the same technique as the previous motif. For round 8, start with chain 3 in the chain space, then crochet the first side. Connect the corner to the previous motif. Then connect the next side and the next corner to motif from the first circle. Continue connecting one side and one corner. After that, keep crocheting all the way to this side. And there is one chain space left. Let's work it together. Here, into the chain space, we crochet 1 double crochet and 2 half double crochets. Start with the first one. Yarn over. Insert the hook. Yarn over and draw through. There are 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over and draw through all the loops on the hook. Complete the half double crochet. Let's do it again. Yarn over. Insert the hook. Yarn over and draw through. Yarn over again, and draw through all 3 loops on the hook. Complete the half double crochet. Now the stitches for the last chain space is completed. Chain 3 now. 1 slip stitch into the starting corner chain space. Do not tighten. Finally, fasten off the yarn and weave in the tail. Now the third motif is finished. There won't be any new stitch or technique for the remaining motifs, so I will walk you through with this sample. For the fourth motif, the first 7 rounds are the same as before. For round 8 of it, pull the yarn through in the corresponding corner chain space and chain 3. After that, Work and connect along this side of the previous motif. Here, the first 2 stitches are half double crochets, then continue with regular double crochets and connect. Connect to the motif below from the first circle. At 2 corners and 1 side. Once done, leave the remaining part unconnected, just crochet accordingly. The 5th motif is identical to the 3rd motif. The 6th motif is the same as the first motif, except the starting side of it needs to be connected. The 7th motif is the same as the 2nd motif. The 8th and 9th motifs are identical to the motifs from the first circle. The last motif is the same as the 5th motif. But the last side here needs to be connected to this side of the first motif. Please follow the chart for the rest. Complete and connect the remaining motifs for this circle. At this point, the motifs for the second circle are done, and the body piece is also completed. Next, crochet the front and back pieces. They'll be crocheted separately. The front piece first. The front piece is divided into the left and the right front piece. The left and right here are based on the actual wearing position. Let's start with the right front piece. There are 2 layers of motifs here. First, we'll work the motifs in the first layer. I will be working from left to right. Let's work the first motif. This motif is crocheted in rows. After the starting chain ring, make the beginning chain, then crochet the corresponding number of double crochets. No need to join with a slip stitch after completing. Simply fasten off the yarn. For the remaining rows, join the yarn at the corresponding position on the starting side of row 1. Then crochet in rows. On row 8, the first border needs to be connected to the corresponding motif below. From the body piece. For the unconnected part, crochet normally. Please complete it. Next, the second motif is similar to the first motif. Here, round 1 needs to be crocheted in rounds, and then crocheted in rows. For row 3, join the yarn in the gap between the stitches from round 1. On row 8, follow the chart to connect the corresponding sides and corners as you go. It won't be difficult to you. After completing, move on to motifs of the second layer. This motif has no special cases. For the last row, just follow the chart to connect the corresponding areas and complete it. The second motif is quite special. Let's work it together. Row 1 first. Pick up the corresponding yarn. Here, we'll be using the color which is different to the outermost row of the previous motif. Then locate this motif of the first layer. Insert the gap between these 2 stitches at the upper right, join the yarn here. Chain 4. Now pick up 2 strands of the first chain. To work 1 double crochet. At this point, we have completed 1 starting pattern. Now, continue with the second one. Chain 4 to start. Pick up the first double crochet stitch or the chain space of the first starting pattern. To work 1 double crochet. After that, the second starting pattern is done. Keep going like this to work 3 more starting patterns. After the last one, locate this gap below the second group of 3 double stitches, counting downwards from the top corner of the previous motif. And work 1 slip stitch here. The starting pattern should not be twisted. Fasten off now. Row 1 is done. Move on to row 2. Join the yarn in the chain space of last starting pattern. Then chain 1, followed by chain 2 as a bridge. 1 single crochet into the chain space of next starting pattern. Chain 2 as a bridge. 1 single crochet into the double crochet stitch of next starting pattern. Chain 2 as a bridge. 1 single crochet into the chain space of the same starting pattern. Chain 2 as a bridge again. 3 double crochets into the chain space of next starting pattern. Chain 3 as a bridge again. 3 double crochets in the same spot. Chain 1 as a bridge again. 1 slip stitch into the chain space of the last starting pattern. Do not pull tight. Fasten off the yarn. Row 2 is now complete. Move on to row 3. For the first single crochet from the previous row, join the yarn in the stitch, and chain 1 to start. Now connect to the first motif. Locate the second gap of groups from the hook, round the middle of the side. Connect here. Return to row 2. In the next chain space, crochet 1 single crochet and 2 half double crochets. Connect in the next gap on the first motif. Three double crochets into the next chain space. And connect. Again, 3 double crochets into the next chain space. And connect. Crochet and connect the next corner. Connect here into the next gap. Then pick up the last chain space to crochet 2 double crochets. And 1/2 double crochet. Connect here into the last gap. Finally, fasten off the yarn. And hide the tail on the wrong side of the fabric. At this point, the second motif is complete. The right front piece is also finished. Next, move on to the left front piece. Similarly, there will be 2 layers. For the first layer, there are no special cases or new stitch technique. Please follow the chart to finish it. The first motif of the second layer is quite special. It is similar to the second motif of the second layer from the right front piece. Let's work it out together. Here, we'll be using the color which is different to the outermost row of the previous motif. And crochet the starting patterns as row 1. At the same time, join yarn in the gap between the 2 stitches on the edge. Chain 4 to start. Pick up the 2 strands of the first chain. To work 1 double crochet. That completes the first starting pattern. Work 4 more starting patterns. Fasten off after that. Row 1 is now done. Next, from the inner side, join yarn in the chain space of the first starting pattern. Then, crochet row 2, according to the chart. And fasten off. Row 2 is done. Move on to row 3. Join yarn in this gap of the first motif from the first layer. And work the corresponding stitches into the chain space of the previous row. Connect once to the motif below. Crochet and connect the next corner. Leave the remaining part unconnected. Just crochet the corresponding stitches according to the chart. Fasten off after completing. Row 3 is completed. So as the first motif. The second motif is worked in rows. For the last row, some positions will be connected to the first motif, and the motif form the first layer. Please follow the chart to complete it. Now, the left front piece is finished. Move on to the back piece. There are 2 layers of motifs. And 4 motifs for each layer. The 2 motifs here on the edge are similar to the edge motifs from the front piece. The 2 centered motifs are identical to the first circle of the body piece. The second layer stays the same. Only the 2 edge motifs of it differ. When crocheting to the top edge, they need to be connected to the top edge of the front piece. This top corner of the first motif should be connected to the corner from the front piece. Then, join as you go along the side. When crocheting the last row on the other side, start by connecting to the corresponding side of the front piece. When you reach the corner, connect to the corner from the front piece and the corner of the adjacent motif. Here, you can pick up 2 chain spaces and crochet 2 slip stitches to connect, or insert the 2 chain spaces together and make 1 slip stitch to connect. After that, continue crocheting and joining as you go. All techniques have been demonstrated before. Please follow the chart to complete the back piece. Now as the back piece is done, let's move on to the collar. We'll crochet in rounds around the neckline and decrease at the center position of the front piece. The new stitch techniques include the X-shaped single crochets, SC2 tog, and SC3 tog. I'll show you in detail. Here, I will be working on this sample. Find the centered two motifs on the back piece. We want the right one. Insert the first gap on the left of this corner. And join the yarn here. Chain 1 as the beginning chain. Pick up stitches to work single crochets evenly. Weave in the tail as you go. For the connecting point, pick up 2 strands like this and work 1 single crochet. Continue picking up stitches and working single crochets evenly. For the beginning chain, just work into the entry point of slip stitch. Continue until this gap before the next corner of this side. Now, leave the corner unworked and pick up the stitches from front piece. First, 5 double crochets into this chain space of the corner. Then crochet the corresponding single crochets following the chart. Keep going until the SC2 tog on the chart. For stitches, work into stitches. For the edge of each row, work into the edge stitch or the chain space around. When you reach the corresponding position, let's make 1 SC2 tog. Here, we insert 2 adjacent stitches and crochet. First, insert the next stitch. Yarn over and draw through. There are 2 loops on the hook. This is 1 unclosed single crochet. Continue by picking up the next stitch. Insert. Yarn over and draw through. This is the second unclosed single crochet. There are now 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over and draw through once. Complete the SC2 tog. Continue working the corresponding single crochets according to the chart. Skip the corner on this side of the front piece. Pick up the next corner chain space to crochet 5 double crochets. Finally, one slip stitch into the first single crochet stitch. Pull tight. Now, take a look at the collar. The fabric should be flat now. If it's not, you can adjust the number of stitches based on the actual situation, but the total number of stitches should be even. Continue to crochet round 2. Chain 1 as the beginning chain. 1 X-shaped single crochet into the next single crochet. Here, insert the middle of the single crochet. The hook goes above the yarn. Yarn over and draw through. Yarn over again, and draw through all the loops on the hook. That completes 1 X-shaped single crochet. Insert the back ridge of the next stitch. Here, we have 2 strands for 1 stitch. The one further back is the back ridge. Crochet 1 regular single crochet here. The hook goes below the yarn. One X-shaped single crochet into the next single crochet. Here, all X-shaped single crochets are worked into the middle of the single crochet. And the hook always goes above the yarn. One X-shaped single crochet completed. From here on, we alternate 1 X-shaped single crochet with 1 regular single crochet. Pay attention to the entry point and the way your hook goes for the X-shaped single crochet. For the regular single crochet, work them in the back ridges. Keep going until there's 1 stitch left before the decrease for the collar. During this process, for the double crochets, just work single crochets evenly into the stitches of them. After that, continue alternating X-shaped single crochets with regular single crochets in the back ridges. You see the pattern here. The pattern requires an X-shaped single crochet for the next stitch. Just crochet correspondingly. Keep going. Now, an X-shaped single crochet is needed for the next stitch, but we need to decrease here. So we will crochet an X-shaped single crochet 3 in 1. First, pick up the next stitch. The hook goes above the yarn, yarn over and draw through. This is a unclosed single crochet. Now, 2 unclosed single crochets evenly into the following 2 stitches. once, and twice. There are 4 loops on the hook. Yarn over and draw through all the loops. A special SC 3-in-1 is done. Now, 1 regular single crochet in the next back ridge. Continue alternating X-shaped single crochet with regular single crochet. Finally, slip stitch into the beginning single crochet. Pull tight. Round 2 is completed. Move on to round 3. The technique is the same as the previous round. Chain 1 as the beginning chain. The first stitch is an X-shaped single crochet. Work an X-shaped single crochet into the middle of stitch. The following stitch is a regular single crochets. So work a regular single crochets into the back ridge. Keep going like this until one stitch before the SC 3-in-1. In the process, for the single crochets worked on the double crochets, just crochet the corresponding X-shaped single crochet and regular single crochets according to the pattern. Keep going. Now, a regular single crochet in the back ridge is needed. But a decrease is also needed here, so we will crochet 1 SC 3-in-1. Pick the back ridges of 3 stitches. And crochet unclosed single crochets evenly. Yarn over, pull through all the loops on the hook. The SC 3-in-1 is done. Continue crocheting according to the textures below. For X-shaped single crochets, crochet X-shaped single crochet evenly. For regular single crochets, crochet regular single crochets evenly into the back ridges. At the end, join with a slip stitch into the first stitch. For the following rounds, crochet correspondingly using the techniques for the first 2 rounds. For decreases, work with the required stitch techniques. After completing everything, fasten off the yarn. Hide the tail on the wrong side of the fabric. The collar is now complete. Next, move on to the sleeve cuffs. The technique is the same as for the collar. Just remember there's no need to decrease. For round 1, along the sleeve edge, crochet the corresponding number of regular single crochets. From round 2, alternately work 1 X-shaped single crochet with 1 single crochet in the back ridge. Complete the corresponding number of rounds. The technique has been demonstrated before. Please follow the chart too. Finish them. The cuffs are now complete. Finally, let's talk about the hem. Crochet in rounds along this side of the first circle of motif, from the body piece. For round 1, crochet regular single crochets. From round 2, alternately work X-shaped single crochets and regular single crochets into the back ridges, and complete the corresponding number of rounds. Finally, fasten off and weave in the tail. Please follow the chart to finish it. The hem is now complete. Up to this point, the entire vest has been done. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website. Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.